Let's touch on the subject of Islam. A lot of people think, they're taking over the UK. They have Dearborn, Michigan. Jihadists and radicalists are the Antichrist. But if you look in the Quran, it states that the Mahdi cannot make someone worship them or claim themselves as God. So as soon as they do that, if the Antichrist does that, he's going to put himself in the place of God and he's going to demand people to worship him. So because he does that, the Muslims already know that's the Antichrist right there. All right, guys, welcome back to the Amp by Faith podcast. It's your host, Real Talk Chic. Now, today we're going to be talking about the Antichrist. I don't want to really get into the conversation about who exactly the Antichrist is, but I do want to talk about it from a biblical perspective. Meaning, like, we're going to go over scripture to talk about exactly who the Antichrist is and kind of debunk certain things that I've been seeing in videos on social media because of a lot of infiltration from other countries. People think that the Antichrist is here or they're taking over or they're invading. That's a different story. But I really want to know what you guys have learned in church, who the Antichrist is. Some people say that he's supposed to be a native Jewish person, or some people believe that it is Islam coming in that is the Antichrist because they're trying to conquer or invade or whatever you guys want to call it. At first, I did think that Islam may have been the Antichrist. But then you have to go into scripture and really break it down onto why are you thinking this way, number one. Number two, when social media floods something in your face and it's showing you that this religion is taking over certain countries and now it's infiltrating the West, and it kind of conditions your mind to think that, okay, yes, this is the Antichrist, but going to biblical perspectives. First, I want to define what is the Antichrist. 2 John, first chapter, 7 through 11. So let's read this scripture and see what it says. 2 John, first chapter. For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess that not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an Antichrist. Someone who is going to deceive many is someone who enters the world who confess not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an Antichrist. So in 2 John 7 through 11, it tells you right then and who the Antichrist is. And then verse 8, it says, look to yourselves that we lose not those things which we have wrought, but that we receive a full reward. Whoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. If there come any unto you, and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. For he that bideth him Godspeed is parketh of his evil deeds. Let me go back here. So basically what this scripture is saying is that the Antichrist is someone who doesn't confess that he's Jesus Christ, or doesn't come into the world saying that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, basically born into flesh. The Word became flesh. They don't believe that. This is a deceiver and an Antichrist. So meaning Muhammad, is the Antichrist. Any Unitarians are Antichrist. The people who don't believe that God came into flesh are Antichrist. So there's not just one Antichrist, there's many Antichrists. Yes, the dragon, the head Antichrist, the prophet, those are all Antichrist. But of course, the dragon is the Satan is the head Antichrist. But there are many. All the ones who don't believe in that God came from the word, God was born into a virgin, into the flesh, word became flesh. If they don't believe that, they are considered an Antichrist. I do want to touch on something because I've been taught a lot that once you're saved, you cannot lose your salvation. But in this scripture, it says, whoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God, and that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath borne the Father and the Son. Verse 8, look to yourselves that we lose not those things we have ought, but that we received a full reward. So your salvation is a full of reward. But if you turn away from Christ and you turn away from God, that's how you lose your salvation. So this doctrine of you can never lose your salvation no matter what you do, there is one thing: if you turn away from Jesus Christ, you can lose your salvation. So that debunks that as well. And I think that right there has been taught since I was young. So I'm pretty sure a lot of other people have been taught that as well. You can't just deny and mock Jesus Christ and think that your salvation still remains. When that's the willful sin. Turning away is willful sin because you know the truth. You sought the truth. You got baptized in the truth. And for you to throw that away, that's the ultimate sin. And that's a reason for you to lose your salvation. Now, go back to Revelation chapter 12, right? The woman with the wings that will be provided for 3.5 years. In the New Testament, she is the nation of Israel, and the Antichrist will try to disarray her because she carries the lineage of the truth, right? The lineage, it represents Jesus's lineage being born again. So the Antichrist is going to go after the baby, but of course he's not going to succeed. Because she's protected by God. A lot of people like to say that the Antichrist is the Pope, right? But if we look at that, not saying that the Pope is not always on the brighter side of things, right? We've seen things from the Pope and may question what his direction is, but regardless, he still believes he's a wholehearted Trinitarian. They believe in the Trinity, the Father, the Son, that, he existed in the Word, became flesh. They believe that. So because they believe in the Trinity, they cannot be the Antichrist. The Antichrist solely does not believe that God existed before, came into flesh, and was the Son of God. Like, they don't believe in that. So that would be considered an Antichrist. Let's touch on the subject of Islam. So a lot of people think, they're taking over the UK. They have Dearborn, Michigan. These jihadists and radicalists are the Antichrist. But if you look in the Quran, it states that the Mahdi cannot make someone worship them or claim themselves as God. So as soon as they do that, if the Antichrist does that, he's going to put himself in the place of God and he's going to demand people to worship him. So because he does that, the Muslims already know that's the Antichrist right there. Their Mahdi cannot demand worship from people. So for us to think that the Islam is on the side of the Antichrist. It doesn't make sense because their religion tells them if somebody demands worship or they put themselves in the place of God, that is the Antichrist. So in chapter 12, it states that the Antichrist will put himself in a position of God and demand worship. Or you don't follow the rules, then most likely you're going to be targeted. They're targeted. Christians are targeted. People who do not follow the Antichrist will be targeted. So who says that Muslims won't be targeted? Who says that Catholics won't be targeted? There's going to be many races who don't follow the Antichrist. It never says that, Islam is going to solely follow the Antichrist, because if you look in the Quran, the Mahdi, if they demand worship, then they already know that's the Antichrist. So the Antichrist cannot be Islam. An Antichrist in Islam would be Muhammad, because he doesn't believe in the birth of Jesus. The apologists, the debaters that don't believe in Jesus Christ. So basically the incarnation, if you don't believe the incarnation of Jesus Christ, you are considered the Antichrist. Now, when we seem like the Antichrist, it's like, oh, this big form that's just going to take over the world and make people and kill everybody and do all types of stuff. Maybe. But when we look at things like Islam and how they're infiltrating, and yes, I'm not saying these things are in good standing. I'm not saying that they are, on the side of God, but they are not the Antichrist. They could be false prophets and still believing in the Trinity. That's why you test people by their fruits. When we look at Muhammad, we test them by their fruits. But Muhammad doesn't believe in Jesus, the incarnation of Jesus, so he's an Antichrist. Does anybody have any questions? To be honest with you guys, I did some research on this, but I wanted to do more. I just didn't have any time. I do want to touch on the subject later, but combine it with preparation for the tribulation. Taking scripture to see what God says when it comes to that time period, and how we will know that the mark of the beast is being implemented. But I want to negate the fact that it's Islam. Because like I said, I did believe that in the beginning, but then when I started doing my research, I'm like, if the Mahdi already knows the nature of the Antichrist, why would they follow them, right? Their prophet that's going to come down and claim to, their Mahdi is going to have one eye and wear a coffee on their head. So it's very clear, like it's not the Antichrist. It's very clear. But we like to listen to everything that's going on social media, videos that we watch, and kind of get infiltrated in our mind, like, oh, this must be the Antichrist. But then we can't that's how we get deceived. When we just willingly watch these things, and I'm guilty of this, willingly watch these things and then infiltrate our mind and heart with it before we do our research on it, it actually hurts us in the end, because then when the Antichrist really emerges, are you going to be deceived? And I think a lot of us who think we are very strong in the faith, it's going to be really hard for people to understand that they're being deceived. One world religion is going to appeal to everybody. People think they're going to realize oh, this guy is just mixing Muslims and Christians and Buddhists and every other religion together, and we're going to tell the difference. No, they're going to make sure that your area, if majority of Christians are there, and majority of Muslims are there, and majority of Hindus are there, it's going to cater to you. And then they're going to have mind to voice technology. So if you're not able to discern your own thoughts from God's thoughts, you're going to think that's God talking to you. And there's things to prepare for that. But just because you're deep rooted in faith, just because you think you know the Bible. I'm still new in the faith. I don't claim to be a scholar. I just do my critical thinking and I do my research. But there's people that have been in the faith for so long, have been reading their Bible incorrectly for so long, and then passing it on to generations is very scary. Very scary. Like I said, I'm not a scholar, but how I break it down and what I was taught totally refute itself. That's why I encourage everybody to pick up their Bible. If you don't understand, read the Hebrew language. Read it in Aramaic if you can. Because there's certain things that you're being taught. And guess what? I don't just stick to my Bible. When I'm doing research, I have the Hebrew, I have the Apocrypha, and I have the Quran in Arabic and English. Because, number one, I'm learning Arabic now. But number two, if we're going to refute another religion, at least know it. Right? Stop taking what we heard online and actually do the research for ourselves. Actually look up the verses, actually understand them, actually know what we're up against. And the more you know about not only your book, but other books, the less you can be deceived. Now, it's not a guarantee, but I don't see why not. Like, if you don't know what's written in the Quran and they're spewing that stuff to you, thinking like, okay, this is okay. Because when I speak to a lot of people that are in the Muslim religion, it was either passed down to them or they were lied to it and they never read the book. How do you join a religion you never read the book from? Everybody has freedom to choose, but like I said, you want to know about it. You want to make sure that your word is saying the truth. Read yours, learn it inside out, and read other books inside out. But back to the subject, an antichrist is someone who refutes the incarnation of Jesus Christ. It's not somebody that's just going to come and think you're going to see Satan on his face. Like, that's not going to happen. Satan masquerades as the angel of light. So go to 2 John, 1st chapter, 7 through 11. That explains to you about your salvation, about who the Antichrist is. Revelation chapter 12 is a complete layout of how the Antichrist will appear. Understand that they're Mahdi. If they demand worship, then they know that's the Antichrist. A lot of people are not going to follow the Antichrist. Doesn't mean they're on the side of God. You have to have that discernment. You have to figure out, okay, when this AI figure or something in the sky shows and it looks like it's heavenly and it's telling me to follow it, are you going to have that discernment is the question. I thank everybody for joining. Today was just really light. Like I said, this is a subject that I really want to break down a little bit further. I just didn't have time. I'll get it together, guys. Until the next one, I'll see you next week with some motivation. I'll be putting a post up to say what we're going to talk about, but we're here every Tuesday at 12 Eastern Standard Time. We go live, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Until then, be bold, be brave, and stay blessed.